All right, so finally got that series out of the way, Astrobo subscribers. Not gonna lie, the Lords Through Houses series was a long one. I realized there was a lot of holes in my knowledge, and I had to go back and do more research on virtually probably 4 out of 12 of all of the different houses and lords and whatnot. So, with this being said, I'm glad that's finally over, and I hope you all found it useful. I hope you were able to apply the House Lords lessons and how the sort of secret or hidden or not very obvious connections between houses through the values of their dispositors and the rulerships are influencing your life and how you can actually use those to figure out where things are going to come from and how to ease the bumps in your manifestation process and live much more in synchronicity, and sort of slow down the weight between what you're trying to manifest and what actually happens in your physical day-to-day life. So with that out of the way, I wanted to give an explanation of a system that I think is exceptionally helpful for doing what I just said, speeding along the synchronicity and manifestation process. And that system is called the hour system. And to preface it, I want to start talking about the process of manifestation and what it actually means when we're trying to manifest something in this philosophy of Western alchemical thinking or Vedic Hindu thinking, traditional Hindu thinking. I guess you could also call it yogic thinking. Okay. So this whole thing is based on a very simple principle, which is that what happens in the mind happens later in reality, an indeterminate amount of time later. And you hear about this with books like The Secret, books like Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, and The Richest Man in Babylon, all these quote unquote powers of positive thinking and whatnot. So people look at this stuff like The Secret, maybe if they're skeptical, and they say, well, look at all these gullible people thinking about things that are going to happen in the future and they're not happening yet, and they're looking at coincidences. And those coincidences, when you have the mental vision and then it manifests, those coincidences are known as synchronicity. And Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst, defined synchronicity as a place where the world of ideas and the world of material touch. There is a union between the world of ideas and the world of the material. So, now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how those worlds touch. So let's imagine that like the world of archetypes or the world of ideas is made of, well, let's just say the world of ideas is made of archetypes. And the archetypes are, at a minimum, narrative constructs that are cross-cultural, although they may show up slightly differently in different cultures. They are patterns of behavior. They are personalities. You could think of them as personalities. And they are eternal and permanent and real, but they are not material and they are not fixed. So when we think of things that are material, we think of stuff like this table that I'm sitting on or sitting near. We think of things like this window behind me, things that have a permanent fixed identity. And archetypes are a different kind of real than that. They are real in that, like in the way that a whirlpool is real. Because the parts of a whirlpool are constantly changing, but the whirlpool maintains its original shape. So they are basically personality constructs that exist because they're the end result of what happens when human beings interact, or personalities or bodies interact with an environment in a social group setting over time. All right. So how do we ground this? How do these archetypes that are basically depicted in the sky, or an analog to them is in the sky in the signs and houses, how do these things touch our world? Because you've got the sky up there and you've got the world down here. How do the archetypes land? How do they manifest in reality through people? And part of the way they do that is through the chart. So different people are going to be predisposed to view the world through different archetypal points of view through their chart. But that doesn't really answer the question, does it? Because you can't be 10 different personalities at once, right? Like, how are you going to decide whether you're going to be the moon today, your moon sign today, or your Mercury today, or you're going to be Mars today, however that manifests for you? And the answer to that is through the hour system and the week system. So basically, every day has a planet associated with it. And that planet associated with the day, and actually this is encoded into our calendar. So Saturn day is Saturn's day. Monday is the moon's day. You can look at the Spanish versions and French versions of Mars and Mercury, Tuesday and Wednesday, because Tuesday in Spanish, I believe, is martes, and Wednesday is miércoles, and that means that basically Tuesday is Mars Day and Wednesday is Mercury's day, and this goes back well before Spanish was even a language. It goes back to the Roman and Egyptian and Greek times. And of course, I don't have to explain why Sunday is the solar day, and Friday is from Norse, it's Freya's day. So it's related to Venus because Freya was basically the Norse equivalent of the Venus archetype. And Thursday is also from Norse, and it's Thor's day. And although the archetype of Thor is much more like a war god, for complicated reasons, that's related to Jupiter. And I'm not going to go into that right now. But basically, Thursday is Jupiter's day through the influence of the concept of Thor, which isn't really around anymore, except in honor societies. So, this being said, the first hour of each of these days is the day of that planet, or the hour of that planet, or the corresponding planetary hour. So the first hour after dawn of Saturday is Saturn. The first hour after dawn of Sunday is the sun, etc., etc., etc. So there's 7 planets in this system, and there's 7 days of the week, but there's 24 hours in a day. So how do you square that circle? How do you fit the 7 planets going around, changing every hour into a coherent system that is based on the days of the week? And I will show you with a graphic that I made here. All right, Okay, so here you can see the first hour of every day, and then what you're going to do is take the house system and or the sign system rather, and you're going to divide each sign into 2, and because there's 12 signs, you're going to get 24 hours out of that. And then you're just going to count 7 signs. So basically from here to here, an hour after midday, this represents midday, is going to be, let's say this is a Saturday. The first hour is going to be Saturn. The second hour, or the first hour after midday, 7 hours later, is going to be Saturn again. The hour after dusk, this represents dusk, and it's the 6th house, is going to be Saturn hour again. And then 3 hours after midnight, right here, is going to be Saturn hour again. So during these times, Saturn's influence in your chart, however that manifests for you in your particular set of attributes and character traits, So however Saturn looks for you is going to be manifested in that particular hour, more specifically. And the planetary hours go around in a very specific cycle called the Ptolemaic cycle. And it goes Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. So the planets basically go around in that order. I'll say it again. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. And so basically what happens is over the course of the 7-day week, these 7 planets repeat in that sort of 24-fold cycle, and you get from Saturday to Saturday, or Sunday to Sunday, or Monday to Monday, however you want to calculate it, depending on what pagan god your Judeo-Christian ancestors adopted, and that would be Saturn for the Jews, and the Sun for the Christians, and Venus for complicated reasons for the Islamic people. You would basically just calculate around and around and around, and it's going to repeat every 7 days. So yeah, that's basically the hour system. So let's say you start with Saturday, and you're going to go Saturday, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon hour all the way, and that's going to take you to an hour after midday. And then you're going to repeat that cycle again, and it's going to take you to sundown or dusk. And then you're going to repeat that cycle again, and it's going to go to 3 hours after midnight. And then you count 3 more hours to get to the end of the day, and then the next day is going to happen. And from Saturday, that's going to be Sunday, and then you're going to count through the cycle again. So starting with Sunday, Venus, Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and then that cycle just repeats all the way till it goes back to Saturn's hour being the first hour of Saturday again. And during these hours, basically what's going to happen is the traits that are associated with your natal planet placement for that corresponds to that hour are going to be amplified, and you're going to see the world through that archetypal lens. And I know this is complicated, it's a lot to swallow. Don't worry, it took me like months to figure this stuff out and like really decode these ancient texts and figure out what they were saying. But I will tell you that me and many other people that I've taught, once you finally start to swallow this geometry, that this cyclical 7-fold process going around every 7 days, what you understand is things are a lot more detailed than you thought they were. And you can start using the power of the hour system to manifest faster, to gain synchronicities in a more smooth way, and to really ease that boundary between the things that are happening in your mind and the things that are happening on the ground in the world. So, and you can also feel the hours shift if you're really paying attention. And I guarantee that that's the case. I mean, I've definitely felt it. Many people that I've made aware of this have definitely felt it. And I'm not the only one I didn't come up with this stuff myself. So I'm not the only one who is using this system. I'm just here to share it with you right now. So yeah, that was my video on the planetary hour system. And yeah, I hope that I made this easy to digest. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. And yeah, I appreciate any feedback, and let me know what you think. And if this made your life easier, feel free to like and subscribe. Have a good one.